Yes, we did receive one comment. It was in opposition. However, as Kathy indicated, she did make contact with that person, and there were no other comments received.
Okay. With that said, we will now open the public hearing. Would the applicant like to speak on this matter?
Just one moment.
Hi, this is Stephen Hilbridge, attorney. Stephen, can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. Hi, everybody. I appreciate, I just want to say a thank you to the commissioner. Condos. So there's an HOA that's going to be associated with this facility?
Yes, there'll be a CCNRs, so there'll be a association for the two property owners.
Okay. There'll be CCNRs.
Turn that off.
I guess I'm just looking for anything that we're not catching here as far as understanding the intent. So you've got two buildings that are currently commercial buildings, renting to different businesses, and now we're going to turn them into a condo, each building into a condo, and sell the building through the condo. And there's no subdivision. It's just one unit, one condo, one unit, one condo.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
is the applicant finished with their presentation?
Yes.
I'd like to say something. Okay. I think just like we have preservation of neighborhood, we have preservations of our business. And I feel like this is one of those projects which is different and outside the box project and may be good, but I don't feel this is the right place for it. It is truly an industrial area. It is not a neighborhood type environment. We have a lot of new development coming in terms of building housing not too far away soon off Segerstrom, Bristol, and so forth. So we don't know yet what's to come. So I just don't feel comfortable putting that there in the midst of an industrial park. It just doesn't seem like the right fit.
Okay. Did you get that?
This is Commissioner Fan. Is the applicant still there?
Hello? Yes, I'm here. Stephen?
Yeah. Can I just ask some clarifying questions?
Sure.
Sure. Okay. So these buildings already exist, correct?
That's correct.
On the same lot that existed, years
Yeah.
before now?
Yeah.
The buildings are not changing?
They are not changing.
So the footprint is not changing?
That's correct.
The parking spaces are not changing?
That's right.
No other structures are changing?
Yes, that's right.
So the only change to this property is legal title to change from single ownership to allow for two owners, one for each building via condominium, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Therefore, there will be no change to the type of businesses that will go into each of these buildings.
Yes, that's right.
There's not going to be a change to how many businesses may max out the building.
That's correct.
So, in essence, the only thing that this project is asking for is to make it easier for businesses in the city of Santa Ana to rent out office space.
Yes, that's right.
So, this project will generate additional property taxes for the city of Santa Ana because it's going to be reevaluated with the change of property type.
So you're saying the assessed value will change when it gets converted into a condominium, and it will and should be higher.
Correct. Is that true? Or maybe true?
I don't know the answer to that question.
Okay, that's fine. But I guess the point is the property already exists. There's nothing, any actual change other than legal title.
That's right.
Okay, so there's not going to be any change in the neighborhood or anything else like that.
That's right. No change.
Okay, thank you. That clarified a lot for me. I just wanted to make sure I understood what the project they're trying to approve is. Appreciate it.
Okay. No problem.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question. Okay, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
So
Cynthia?
if there's not going to, and not that this is more for staff, but if we're going to have, if the offices are just now going to still continue to have businesses, but it's going to be considered condominiums, then why CC&Rs? If businesses are still going to be in the buildings, is that what I'm hearing?
Vice Chair, this is Ali, and you are correct. The businesses will remain in the building. The point of the CC&Rs is it's a tool that ensures that the common areas between the two buildings don't fall into disrepair or lack of maintenance. So when you have any sort of subdivision that has a common area, a CC&Rs is a tool that you use to ensure, for example, that the parking lot is regularly maintained, or the landscaping, if it dies, it's replaced quickly and efficiently, so that long term the property maintains its high level of quality for the city. That's the point. Even if there's just two owners, it's something that ensures that there's some responsibility to maintain the common areas that are outside of your footprint.
So it also says that any kind of long-term maintenance, cleaning, painting, doing anything like that to the outside of the structure is under the CC&Rs and under the responsibility of the condominium owners?
That's correct.
Or the CC. Okay. I guess, Ali, question I have is, this is sort of an interesting business proposition. What other buildings can you cite in the city of Santa Ana that have a similar arrangement as this?
So, in January 2019, the commission entertained and approved a request for an office park subdivision on the east side of the 55 freeway at 1920 and 1940 East Deer Avenue. That was a request to split a multi-building office industrial park into 2 parcels and then to condominiumize each building into 1 unit, just like this request. So this type of request does have precedent with this commission.
Okay, so, and if I remember, that was about 8 or 9 units, or it wasn't a lot of units, was it?
You're correct, Chairman. It was 2 fee simple parcels, and then on each fee simple parcel, there were about 3 buildings each, and each one of those buildings became a single condominium unit, so that each building could be sold separately.
Right. Okay. All right. Does anyone else from the commission have a question of the of Stephen at this point in time, of the applicant? Okay, hearing none. Since the public hearing is open, Madam Secretary, do we have any people that would like to speak on this item?
If you'd like to speak on this matter, please press *9 now. We'll wait a few seconds to see if we have anyone that'd like to speak. Chair, no one has indicated that they would like to speak on this matter.
Okay, since we have no one else that would like to speak on this item, we'll close the public hearing and we'll bring it back to the commissioners for final discussions or questions. Do any of the commissioners have any questions? I'm going to start with Commissioner Morrissey. Is there anything else you'd like to talk about on this item?
No, I don't have any additional comments. Thank you.
Commissioner Nguyen?
No, I don't. Thank you.
Commissioner Rivera?
Just a quick comment. I think, thanks, Ty. I think you kind of cleared it up a little bit more as far as what the project is or what we're doing here. But I think the big takeaway is we're not talking about residential for condominiums. I think right away when I was thinking condominiums, I was automatically thinking residential, but this is remaining a business. It's just we're splitting up those two so there can be 2 owners for the building. So that makes a lot more sense. So thanks. But other than that, I don't have any questions right now.
Okay. Commissioner Fan?
No questions. Thank you.
Vice Chair Contreras-Leo?
I feel the same way as Felix, so thank you for bringing it up the way you did. I understand it better.
Okay. I have one quick question of the applicant one more time, but about how old is this current is the facility? How old is the actual building itself?
It was constructed in the early 80s, so roughly years old.
So it's roughly 40 years old. Okay. All right. Would anyone like to make a motion on this item at this point in time?
I'll move. It's Ty.
Okay, Ty, you make a move. Please state your motion.
Okay, I move to adopt resolution of the Planning Commission approving tentative function map number 2018-04 and special use permit number 2020-01 as conditions to subdivide an existing commercial development into 2 condominium units for the property located at 3100 and 3130 South Harper Boulevard.
Thank you, Commissioner Fan. Do we have a second? Ken?
Second.
All right. So we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion that the commissioners want to have on this item?
Chair, if I may, can we please clarify who seconded that motion?
Ken Nguyen?
Thank you.
Ken Nguyen is the second to that motion. Okay.
I'm sorry, Chair, Mr. Chair, I couldn't hear the motion very well. Was the motion to approve?
No, yes, the motion was to approve based on the recommendation of staff.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and we have a second. If there's no further discussion, Madam Secretary, will you do a roll call vote?
Yes. Commissioner Morrissey.
Aye.
Commissioner Nguyen.
Aye.
Commissioner Rivera.
Aye.
Commissioner Fan.
Aye.
Vice Chair Contreras-Leo.
Aye.
And Chair McLaughlin.
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0 with Commissioner Garcia absent.
Okay. Thank you very much, everybody. I appreciate that. We will now move on to the second part of this agenda, which is our work study calendar. At this point in time, let's put this. Please note that there will be no motion or action taken on these items. The first item of the work study calendar is a review of the proposed billboard ordinance. Ali, you're going to be presenting with Jerry?
That is correct, Chairman.
Okay. Go ahead.
Good evening, Chairman and Commissioners. This is a follow-up work study session to the June 22nd meeting we had on the proposed billboard ordinance. Moving on to slide number 10. At the last meeting, the Commission did ask for more of a background in terms of why the city was proposing these changes. Just to kind of give you a quick background, the city's off-premise commercial advertisement ordinance was first adopted in 1984 and then was amended in 1987. The city considered off-premise as a sign form of methods to pretty much just generate money for the city in 2014 and 2015. And at that time, the city did engage our vision consulting firm to assist the city in preparing service agreements as well as to provide input on potential locations as well as revenue sources. In 2017, the City Council did direct staff to analyze allowing digital billboards in order to generate revenue for the city. Based on the current ordinance, digital billboards were only allowed in certain areas and they were very limited. Following the direction from council, the city did hire a consulting firm to conduct research on the topic. Moving on to slide number 11. At that time, when the city did hire the consultant firm, the areas of exploration did include allowing billboards on city-owned properties, such as the Santa Ana Stadium, and also allowing them within private properties. We also did analyze potentially allowing such billboards within downtown Santa Ana as a potential area. In 2018, in November of 2018, staff provided feedback to the Economic Development, Infrastructure, Budget, and Technology Committee. And at that time, the EDIBIC committee did provide further direction to proceed with regulations allowing billboards along the city's freeways. Moving on to slide number 12. This is more or less a recap of the June 22nd meeting we had with the commissioners. This body did raise some additional concerns as well as questions with regards to the background of the proposed ordinance, as well as did ask for some information with regards to existing billboards. In addition, some Caltrans regulations were also addressed, and a number of the commissioners did have questions with regards to what the potential number of billboards this ordinance would allow, as well as some additional revenue questions and public service announcements questions. And lastly, the commission did also have some additional comments with regards to additional outreach meetings to be conducted with neighboring neighborhood associations. Moving on to slide number 13. This is more or less just a quick summary of Caltrans regulations. More or less, Caltrans pretty much controls or is the regulatory agency that controls billboards that are facing the freeway or that are within 660 feet of the Caltrans right-of-way. Pretty much 3 different acts authorized Caltrans as a regulatory agency. The first one being the 1965 Federal Highway Beautification Act. The second one being the 1967 California Outdoor Advertising Act, as well as the last one, which is the California Outdoor Advertising Regulations. Moving on to slide number 14. I'm just going to briefly go over with you what the majority of Caltrans requirements are. Such billboards cannot be located within their freeway right-of-way, so they have to be located within the city's sphere of influence. They cannot also be located within a stream or a drainage channel. In addition to that, the billboards need to be located within a commercial or industrial zone property, and obviously must have consent of the property owner as well as obtain a building permit from the local agency. Moving on to slide number 15, in terms of placement, for Caltrans, these billboards cannot be located adjacent to a landscape freeway or a scenic highway. We do have portions of the 5 as well as portions of the 55 and the 22 that are considered landscape freeway segments. In addition to that, Caltrans does require minimum separation of 300 feet from any proposed billboard to a static billboard, which is 300 feet, and they require a separation requirement of 1,000 feet for any digital billboards. In addition to that, they do have a maximum size that they allow, which is a maximum of 1,200 square feet, which is 25 by 60 feet in length. With that, moving on to slide number 16. In terms of the number of billboards currently located in the city, we do have up to about 200 sites, and these do include a range of large, medium to small billboards, as well as static versus digital, as well as single phase versus double phase. Moving on to slide number 17. One of the commissioners did ask for a map of the locations of such billboards. So slides number 16 and 18 pretty much depict that. We do have a total, as mentioned, about up to 200 billboard sites, and the majority of them are located along First Street as well as Main Street, correct. Sorry about that. So now moving on to slide number 19. This is pretty much a recap of the last meeting. So in terms of what the city is proposing, again, the whole goal of this ordinance is to update the current ordinance to modernize the ordinance, as well as to remove some of the non-conforming billboards that are located in sensitive land uses, as well as located within residential properties. Also to allow the construction of new digital billboards subject to a operating agreement, as well as to allow the conversion and reconstruction of existing on and off-premise size digital billboards. Moving on to slide number 20. With that, as discussed at the last meeting, the city is looking to allow these billboards to be placed only adjacent to the 5, 55, and the 22 freeways. They will have to be within non-residential zone property. We are requiring a minimum adjacency to the freeway of 300 feet. And as per the last discussion we had, originally staff was recommending a 300-foot buffer from residential properties. We have then since modified per the commission's recommendation to 500 feet. In addition to that, obviously these new billboards will have to comply with Caltrans requirements as noted on the previous slides. Moving on to slide number 21, these slides here pretty much depict the location of where these billboards can potentially be located. We do have a potential area, again, meeting Caltrans requirements as well as meeting the city's regulations, as previously discussed. One of these locations along the 22 freeway, crossing stream will be Grand Avenue, and the area is pretty much shaded in green for you as being displayed on the slide right now. And now moving on to slide number 22. This now shows some areas that would potentially allow for billboards along the 5 freeway. Again, there are 3 different shaded green areas that would potentially allow for such billboards along the 55 and more or less Main Street. Moving on to slide number 23. This is another segment of the 5 freeway. And as you can see, there are 2 potentially areas along the 5 and 4th Street. And now moving on to slide number 24. These remaining slides are pretty much areas along the 55 where billboards will be potentially allowed. So I'll go ahead and skim through these slides fairly quickly. Again, these are all segments of the 55 freeway.
And now moving on to slide number 24. These remaining slides are pretty much areas along the 55 where
Commissioners, if you could please mute your monitor to avoid feedback. Appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, so now we are moving on to slide number 29. And this is pretty much the same table we presented last time in terms of the review process as well as the approving body. So what staff is proposing for any new digital billboards, they will have to go through 3 processes. The first one being the development project review. The second one being the conditional use permit application process, and the third one is the operating agreement. That will be subject to this body's approval, as well as the operating agreement will be subject to the city manager's approval. And that does also require, obviously, a conditional use permit as well as a public hearing. The second type of billboard type are the existing static ones that will be allowed to be converted into digital billboards. And those, we are trying to streamline the process since they're already currently built. That would just require development project review applications as well as an operating agreement. So it will be subject to the city's executive director for planning and building agency as well as the city manager, but it would not be subject to approval of this body. The third category is for the conversion of existing on-premise signs. So these are currently monument signs or pylon signs that do not provide off-site advertisements. They only provide on-site advertisements for the business located on that particular property. And that will also be subject to the same standards in terms of the reviewing process for a new digital billboard. So it will require Planning Commission approval as well as the city manager's approval for the operating agreement, and would also require a public hearing. The last one that we added is part of a state requirement that the city needs to allow for relocating agreements if a billboard is located on an area where as part of a street widening or as part of the city's action that requires eminent domain, such billboard is then allowed to be relocated to a different location. Obviously, that relocation area will be subject to the new criteria established by this ordinance, and will also be subject to the other reviewing processes as part of, similar to that of a new digital billboard. So moving on to slide number 30, we briefly spoke about this last time with regards to the exchange ratios. So as mentioned, in order for you to be able to construct a new digital billboard here in Santa Ana, what's being proposed is that the applicant will then have to remove a number of existing non-conforming billboards. So for new digital billboards, we're setting that at a ratio of 8 times the area of the proposed billboard area. For the conversion of existing static billboards, we are reducing that to 6 times the area of proposed billboards. And then for the conversion of static billboards, we are looking at the 8 times the area of proposed billboards. And then the conversion of on-premise sign to digital, we are lowering that to 4 times the area of proposed billboards. And then lastly, the last category talks about the conversion of existing digital on-premise signs to digital, which will be subject to a ratio of 6 times the area of the proposed billboards. In addition to that, we are allowing some deviation or reduction to be met through a operating agreement, which will allow for a reduction of 1/3 of the number of required ratio. And then lastly, we did speak about this last time. So in order for you to get that allowance in terms of reduction, the city will be requesting a operating agreement, which will require some form of economic and community benefits. And we are still looking at in terms of how we're going to go ahead and ask for this, whether it be a percentage of the number of billboards, or it will be a percentage in terms of revenue of the proposed billboard. And some of those community economic benefits do include like local business with regional attractions, business provides defined annual taxable sales, provides physical on-site or off-site improvements, for example, enhancements to landscape areas or parkways, and will also have to demonstrate an ongoing business plan as well as local and significant employment for the city. With that, we're moving on to slide number 32. As mentioned, as part of the operating agreement, we are going to be requiring a billboard removal plan, and as well as a community benefit plan, as mentioned on those previous slides. New digital billboards. This is one of the questions in terms of how many billboards can this proposed billboard ordinance generate. And based on the analysis that staff did, you're looking at about 10 to 15 billboards along these freeways. In addition to that, the city does anticipate revenue sources from applications fees as well as through the operating agreement. And just to give you an example, nearby cities are pretty much negotiating $1.5 million for over a 30-year lifespan for such billboards. But again, we're still analyzing this, so hopefully by the next time we meet, we'll have a more concrete analysis for you. With that, moving on to slide number 33 in terms of next steps. As mentioned, we are still in the process of finalizing the ordinance, and we are also in the process of finalizing the CEQA document. We did provide a copy of the draft ordinance to the commission, so hopefully you had a chance to review that. And then in the next couple of weeks, we do anticipate finalizing the negative declaration as well as finalizing the operating agreement to bring forward to this commission. As requested, we are planning on conducting additional outreach with the billboard industry and different stakeholders, as well as with adjacent neighborhood associations. The ordinance does require the recommendation of this body as well as the city council approval. With that concludes staff's presentation, and we're here to answer any of your questions.
Thank you, Jerry. Do any of the commissioners have questions of Allie and Jerry at this time? Commissioner Morrissey.
Yes, I do have a question. So I have a concern about the one of the conditions, the conversion of an existing non-electronic billboard to an electronic billboard. It said it does not require a public hearing. I think in the case of these billboards, particularly in the case of the LED billboards, you have a lot of light being emitted from the billboard, and I'm not sure if there's going to be a restriction on the amount of light or lumens they put out, but they can be quite impactful from long distance to neighborhoods. So there's a two-part question there. I guess I noticed there's a negative declaration being prepared. I was wondering if that was taken into account, and why there would be no public hearing for conversion to a electronic billboard, given the fact that it's a different type of light source and the potential impact that has on the neighborhood during nighttime.
Commissioner Morsi, so the rationale for that was basically to try to streamline the process, since these are currently already built structures and all they're doing is basically converting to LED or digital billboards. Just to give you a background, the city only has 4 digital billboards along the 55 that will be able to qualify under this particular threshold to be able to convert. So we don't have static billboards along any sensitive land uses, just to give you a background in terms of the number of existing static billboards. And again, these are located along the 55 freeway and industrial areas. In addition to that, as part of the draft, we did include standards that do talk about mitigating lighting. So these new billboards will be subject to those requirements. In addition to that, the mitigated negative declaration did analyze lighting sources as well.
Commissioner Marcy, are you satisfied with that response?
Well, I guess I'd have to review the EIR, but I think these billboards can be, even though they're not posted or constructed in a sensitive area, that the light they produce can be seen for quite a distance. So it can intrude on a residential area that's a quarter mile away or more.
Right.
So I have a big concern about that.
Okay. Commissioner Nguyen, do you have any questions?
No, I don't. Thank you.
Commissioner Rivera,
No, no questions. Thank you.
Commissioner Pan,
Yes. My question was more regarding the draft ordinance. I guess there are less questions and more comments on some of the maybe inconsistencies. One of the things I would like some clarification on, or maybe we can go through it, is for the definition. For billboard and off-premise commercial advertising sign, if there's some way, I'm just looking at this as an applicant, right, looking for a billboard, or trying to open up a billboard, and so if we can consolidate those definitions, that would be really helpful, and do that throughout. The other issue that I have is for definitions for non-commercial advertisement sign and off-premise advertisement sign, on-premise advertisement sign. Those aren't used consistently throughout. So as I'm reviewing some of it, it might say off-premise sign, or for example, in section 41-1113, it mentions on-premise sign. We don't have a definition for on-premise sign. We have a definition for on-premise advertisement sign. So those kinds of cleanups throughout would be very helpful. Just that kind of stuff. Otherwise, no questions as of now. I think y'all addressed a lot of the concerns with me at the last study session, so I really appreciate that.
okay. Commissioner Vice Chair Contreras-Leo. Cynthia, do you have any questions?
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Oh, okay. So, lines from Commissioner Morrison, that some of the comments about having people that already have them and are coming in for for the conversion. I think it's important also to consider that where it was placed to begin with, the area around it was built a certain way, and time has passed, and we have to consider what's been built out around it that now can affect it, instead of not allowing the community to have a say or have a hearing for it, because, you know, we have built out more since that one site was built, perhaps, and I think those things also need to be considered.
Okay. Any other comments?
No.
Okay. From my perspective, I kind of shared Tom's same concern, and that is that I think there's a significant difference of moving from a static billboard sign to a digital billboard sign with LEDs, and we've seen that it has been a challenge in some respects, especially when it comes to the Main Place Mall as being that one. What I'd like to do is I want to go back and ask you a couple of questions. And Jerry, can you bring up the map that you had of the city? Jerry?
Chairman, it's lagging a bit, but you should see in a couple of seconds. And I'm assuming you want us to display the location of existing billboards, correct?
Okay, so I'm assuming that the green areas are where we have billboards at this point in time, or potential of billboards.
Chairman, which maps do you want to take a look into? Are you referring to the?
I'm looking at the billboard locations
As of November 2017.
Yeah, well, I just lost it on my screen. And I'm looking at the map that had the I guess it was the dots where there were billboard signs.
So the map that we are currently displaying pretty much depicts where billboards are currently constructed. And those are highlighted in dark, circled in black, and they're scattered throughout the city. The display right now is showcasing the majority of them along First Street.
Right.
And
so the dots on there represent the billboard signs, correct?
that is correct.
Okay, so why don't I see any for the Main Place Mall?
Chairman, the billboards located on Main Place Mall are considered on-premise advertisement signs, so per definition, they are not a billboard.
So this is strictly static billboards that are in the city.
That is correct. These are currently billboards that are displaying off-premise advertisement.
And it looks as though the dividing line between this is it First Street, or what is it? I mean, you see very few signs. There's very few signs that are in the center, and it looks like there's just one corridor of signs that go across the city.
That is correct. So the majority of the signs are located along First Street as well as Main Street.
First and Main. Yeah, I don't see too many on Main, but that's okay. All right, and this is the approximate 200 sites that exist in the city at this point in time?
That is correct. And this is only, again, taking into consideration off-premise, not on-premise signs.
not on, it's just off premise. Okay. The other thing is, one of the things that I was expecting to see, and maybe I'm just misunderstood the concept, but, you know, when it comes to LED signs, you know, are there going to be, what are the regulations going to be with respect to, you know, turning the lights down, the LED lights down after, say, you know, dusk, and when do the lights go off? When do the LED lights go off entirely? And if they're not going to go off entirely, why are we, you know, what regulations do we have around neighborhoods? And I think the other thing is that, you know, when those signs come on, what hour of the day would they be coming on? Because I know when we did the signs with Tom's truck, it was strictly times. There was a start and a stop time for that sign. But I don't believe we have the same situation for the Main Place Mall. I believe the Main Place Mall is 24 hours a day.
Chairman, thank you. This is Ali speaking. The draft ordinance that was shared with you before this meeting does not contain any provisions on hours of operation or any specifics on requiring dimming or a cessation of advertising during a certain time period. If there's direction from the commission on that topic, then that can be included in the ordinance that will be brought to you for consideration at a future date. But without it, then it would be subject to conditions of approval that would be done on a case-by-case basis, depending on the context of each billboard.
Which doesn't, I mean, frankly, I don't think that makes sense. I mean, I hear what you said, but I don't think it makes sense that it gets treated on a case-by-case basis. I mean, I think that for the sake of the resident, the homeowner, the person that's close by the signage, there ought to be some aspects of control that we have. It's not just let's have a negotiation with the vendor that wants to put a sign up. Doesn't make sense. And you know, I think that there's subtleties that are also in there as to, you know, if there's signage on the property, and can it do advertising for other businesses? Can it do advertising? Is it going to do community advertising? And how much of that is going to be dedicated, or how much of that's going to be required? I mean, I think there has to be some kind of standard that we deal with, and then as long as we have a standard, then people can come in and say, okay, now I understand what the standards are. I'd like to have a variance for this, and at that point in time, it becomes a discussion of the commissioners to say whether or not they're willing to allow a variance. But I just, not having anything to compare to from a standard point of view, I mean, it just, that to me is a free for all. I don't know what my other commissioners' feelings are on that, but that's my feeling. I think it's a free for all. We just leave it a blank sheet of paper. Anyone want to comment? Go ahead.
Yes, I agree with you, Mark, and I also am concerned about the blight that it'll bring. I mean, you know, over time, these things they're not attractive. And to a certain point, they're nuisances in the community, in the neighborhood, and the effects. I mean, as much as we want to say it's not going to, it is. And those are real concerns.
Right. Okay. Anybody else have any comments?
Yeah, I would concur with you. Yes, thank you. That we do need to establish standards, and if that makes sense. If the vendor wants to deviate, then applies for variance, and then we have a public hearing, and everybody has a chance to weigh in on it. But yeah, I don't. I'd have to see the EIR, but it just doesn't make sense that we're putting forth a negative deck on something like this.
Yeah. And my other comment, and it's been this, I've said this many times before, and that is that, we tend to, when we notify people and we talk to people with respect to the circumference of the area that these digital billboard signs are going to impact, we have a standard that says notify people within 500 feet, but the reality of it is that some of these lights can be seen for half a mile. And how do we control that situation? Because as I said, I can sit out on my back deck and I can see the signs right there in Main Place Mall. I can't imagine how much brighter they are when you get to Memory Lane or other parts of Morrison Park, because the light's being just across the highway from them. So, and I just think that those signs at some point in time should be shut down. 10 o'clock at night, they should shut down. Or maybe some other night, but maybe some other hour. But I feel that there ought to be some way in which there's some relief for the people, that they're not constantly having this beacon coming into their backyard.
Thank you, Chairman. And as the commissioners are sharing their comments, Jerry and I are furiously taking notes. So even though we're not in the same room, just rest assured we're writing these comments down.
The other item I saw and I was curious about was that there's a 1,000-foot separation between digital signs.
That is correct, Chairman. That is what staff is proposing.
I have another comment, Mr. Chair, if I could.
Hello?
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Go ahead, Tom.
Okay. Did I understand correctly that if a applicant, so I'm unclear, how many operators are there for these signs? Is it one or two operators, or are they all individual operators? I'm not sure how the signs are serviced, maintained, and owned.
Commissioner, normally they're maintained by one operator. So just a background, the majority of the current billboards that we have are primarily owned by 5 billboard operating companies.
What was that, Jerry? I didn't catch that last statement.
The majority of the billboards that we currently have are operated or owned or maintained by 5 billboard companies.
But let me just ask this to Tom's question. Tom's Trucks owns and operates the sign that they have outside, that they have on their premise, right?
That is correct. That is considered a on-premise advertisement sign.
Right, and the auto mall is also, the auto mall is controlled by the auto mall itself.
That is correct. That is correct.
Okay, and Main Place Mall is a third-party provider that manages that. Main Place doesn't manage it.
Chairman, that's correct. Main Place's digital signs are managed by Outfront, which is formerly CBS Outdoor Advertising.
Okay. So this is where we get into the definitions that you're saying. Tom's Trucks has a certain definition for signage on their property versus Main Place Mall has a different definition for the signage on their property.
Just to clarify, Chairman, all 3 of the examples that you shared are considered on-premise advertising. So they're not billboards in the traditional sense where they're intended to advertise products that are not sold on site. Your typical billboard would have an ad for like iPods or Coca-Cola, off-premise products. Tom's Trucks, Main Place, McFadden Place, and the Auto Mall are intended to be on-premise signs. that are defined differently, and they're subject to different code regulations.
So all four of those would be under the same regulations.
Correct. Those are more or less subject to a different code section. It's section 41885 of the Santa Ana Municipal Code for on-premise product advertising. And those require an application called a regional planned sign program, which do require planning commission action.
Okay. Is that clear, Tom?
Yeah, I think I understand that. That we, on advertising signs, we do, that is a public hearing. Is that correct?
That's correct.
There are the same regulations. There will be the same regulations. Will the regulations we pass here be the same for, will we also be changing that portion of the code?
So with this proposed ordinance, we would not be changing that code section because the regional plan sign programs is part of a code section that discusses on-site product advertising. Everything ranging from if I'm a bank and I want to put up a wall sign, all the way up to these on-premise digital signs that advertise on-site products. So this effort before you, this work study session, doesn't really touch on that. However, it does borrow from some of those components in terms of things like brightness levels and how frequently you can change the advertisement, as well as prohibiting things like animation and movement. It does borrow from those because those are considered statewide industry standards. Regardless of the type of advertising that you're doing, those are considered statewide industry standards for digital signs.
But that's what's dictated by Caltrans, is what you're saying.
Correct. When that ordinance was prepared, a lot of those standards came from Caltrans recommendations.
Okay.
Okay, and my follow-up on that, thought I saw an exhibit that you had showed if you're putting up one sign, there's a removal requirement. Was there an exhibit to that effect? Or did I misunderstand it?
We are bringing up slide 30 in a moment. It should be available on your screen. And I'm sorry, Commissioner, can you please repeat your question?
Well, I was wondering, I didn't quite understand. Somebody's putting up a sign, how, if I understood the exhibit correctly, and everybody's an individual owner, how could another sign be removed, or 4 signs be removed for every one new digital? Didn't quite understand.
Sure. So when you have these billboards scattered throughout a city, even though they exist on someone's private property, the structure is often owned by the billboard company, and they are leasing the site on which the billboard is placed, like a small sliver of the site, through a lease agreement, actually very similarly to a lot of cell phone towers that are built on private property. The cell phone tower may belong to a cell phone company, but it is still being placed on someone's private property, and through a lease agreement, the property owner is getting payment. So what that means is that in exchange for having the ability to reconstruct or put up a new digital sign, that same billboard company would have to identify a certain number of its other static billboards in Santa Ana to be removed at the rates that you're seeing that are proposed on this table. Just for some background information, this is a common strategy that's found throughout the United States, not too far from here in Long Beach. They have very similar ratios for this sort of removal that's required. And these ranges vary by city depending on the number of billboards they have and kind of what their priorities are. But these ranges are found all the way from Long Beach to Philadelphia. I know even Metro Los Angeles, the public transit authority there has a similar sort of requirement for teardowns in exchange for these digitizations, if you want to call that.
I just want to clarify something briefly, that these ratios are still in draft form, so staff is still analyzing them. So we'll provide final numbers once we have a conclusion of that analysis.
Yeah, it just seems like if the operator doesn't have, doesn't own enough area to do the removal, there should be some other form of compensation, I guess, or it doesn't seem as though that's sustainable for all operators.
Correct. That is correct, Commissioner. And as mentioned, the majority of these billboards are owned by 5 billboard companies, and that is also part of the economic community benefit, is to allow for a reduction for those potential applicants that don't have the ability to remove and comply with those ratios.
Okay. Tom, any other questions of staff?
No, not at this time. Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Nguyen.
I have no question. Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Rivera.
No question.
Commissioner Fan.
Yeah, just one clarification question for staff. So, Section 41-1133 regarding lighting and display requirements. I know that there's obviously, we just had a long conversation about lighting and that issue. And so here we do have a standard with producing a maximum of 0.3 foot candles of ambient light level. So I'd like that we have some type of standard, but I guess as everyone's been mentioning, with additional billboards, the next one or the 10th one will constantly be brighter and brighter because it's always over the max that already exists. So if there's some way we can address that and to clarify that, that would be much appreciated.
Okay.
That's all.
Vice Chair Contreras-Leo.
No, thank you.
Okay. My wrap up is that I think we do have to have some standards and be able to compare them as people come in. I think that having it just as ad hoc, each supplier comes in with their own, so to speak, design. I mean, when we were designing and looking at the sizing and the appearance of the Tom's Trucks signage, there's a lot of work that was put into that discussion to say, here's how high we want it to be, here's how it is, here's the hours and everything else. And I don't see that in this discussion. I don't see those same controls being put forth at this point in time. Maybe I'm just missing that, and maybe it's going to take some time, but I think we ought to have some level of baseline to work with, especially the digital lighting. Okay, anything else?
Mr. Chairman, I do concur. I think we should have some sort of standards to set a for the size. Otherwise, by not implemented, it will be totally out of control because everybody will do whatever they want and now different approval. We should have some kind of standard.
Okay. All right, Allie, is that acceptable there?
Thank you, Chairman and Commissioners. All of these comments and feedback have been very helpful. As stated earlier, we've been taking notes and aim to reflect these comments and answers to these questions in the future ordinance.
Okay, when do we expect to see another round of discussion in this particular area?
We are expecting to return to the commission for consideration within 30 to 60 days. That will be contingent on finalizing the ordinance as well as the required environmental document, and equally important, the community and industry outreach.
Okay. So, a rough time frame?
30 to 60 days.
All right, okay. Good enough. Any other last questions of staff on this item? Hearing none. Thank you, Jerry. Thank you, Ally. And now we'll go on to the next work study session.
Chair, if I may interrupt, can we please just ask if there are any callers that would like to speak on this matter?
Any caller?
Yes, so if there is a caller that would like to speak on this agenda item,
Okay.
please press star 9 now. And we
Okay.
do have one person who would like to speak. Caller,
Go ahead.
please state your name and your position on the matter, and you have 3 minutes. Thank you. Caller? With
Good evening.
Yes.
Good evening, Dale Helvig. A few comments. One is on the presentation. The timing of the slides was very hard to follow because there's like a 25-second delay, so I was 2 slides behind during the presentation. So I'm hoping that you guys can slow that down on the next presentation a little bit to where we can follow along a little bit easier. The other comment is community advertisement should be a criteria. And if we're going to run them all night long, if that's the case, then the community advertisements shouldn't be at 2 to 4 in the morning to meet the requirement, whatever that might be. So I think it ought to be tightened up as far as when that community advertisement is going to occur. Also, the location of these signs is not compatible with the focus areas that are being presented for urban development. So the spot up at the 22 Freeway and Grand, you're proposing in the general plan update for the focus area to have that as urban development, which will be residential, and that you're also saying that's a proposed area for a sign. So what comes first, the sign or urban development? You know, they're not going to be compatible as it is right now. And I thought the whole idea was to make a comprehensive update to have everything meshed together. Doesn't appear that that's the case. The content on slide 21 doesn't agree with the staff report, so that ought to be taken a look at as far as who's authorizing or approving the information. There's a disconnect there. The other thing is the 1,000-foot requirement is from any static sign to any electronic or digital sign. And if you look at the 55 freeway, there's 3 signs located on the 55 freeway, one right at the intersection of 55 and Warner, but yet that area is designated as a potential spot for digital signs. So those signs would have to go away, I take it, and I think it gets back to another commissioner's comment on what's going to trump it, the digital sign or the pre-existing signs, and who's going to do that negotiation to make that area feasible for digital signage. So other than that, have a good night. Thanks.
Thank you, Dale. Any other comments at this point in time from the public?
Chair, we do not have anyone else that wishes to speak at this time.
Okay. Hearing none, then we'll close the public hearing, and we'll move on to the next item. The second item of the work study calendar is a semi-annual major development update. This, for those that haven't participated in this before, we've asked staff to give us a semi-annual review of what kind of projects are coming to us, what kind of projects have already been through us, but what the status of that project is. So with that, Vince and Allie, you're going to present that?
Thank you, Chairman. I'll take the lead on this. This is Ali, and thank you for having us back tonight with this major development update. We last brought this to you in February of this year, and since then, some things have changed, and we thought we'd share them with you. So I will do my best to align the speaking with the slides that are displayed on the screen. So the first project that you'll see coming up shortly on your screen is called Legacy Square, and this is a mixed-use development consisting of 93 affordable housing units at 60% of the area median income level. The project, it's mixed use, so it would also contain about 1,700 square feet of leasable commercial space and a 3,800 square foot community room. This project was approved in February of 2019 and is currently in the building division plan check process. That's the process where hardcore construction plans are reviewed and hopefully issued permits. The next project is the Rocket Express Car Wash, and this was brought to you and approved in February of 2019 as well. This is a site at the corner of Maybury and 17th Streets. Its current status is that the site has been cleared, demolition permits were pulled, and the project is currently in the building division plan check process as well, with an estimated completion of spring 2021. The next project that'll arise shortly is Hatfan Residential at 3025 West Edinger. And this is an 18-unit multifamily residential development that was approved ultimately by City Council in June 2019, and like the other projects, is in the building division plan check process. And in a few moments, the slide will appear before you. The next project is called Legacy Sunflower. This is a 226-unit multifamily development in a 5-story building wrapped around parking at the corner of Sunflower and Flower, 651 West Sunflower. This was approved again by City Council in June of 2019, and like its other projects, is now in the building division plan check process. And pardon the technical issues. Let's see. All right, so the next project is the main place transformation, and in a few moments you're going to see a minor technical glitch on your screens, but the main place transformation slide will appear. And the project was approved, this new specific plan was approved by the Planning Commission in May of 2019, subsequently by City Council later that summer. It is an entitled specific plan area, and currently we have several of the specific implementing projects under review. There's been a new parking structure that was recently approved and in plan check. There's a residential project there that's in plan check, as well as the submittal to reconstruct the former Nordstrom building with a variety of food and entertainment uses. The next slide before you will be the In-N-Out Burger reconstruction at Civic Center in Bristol. This is a complete demolition of the In-N-Out that was there in order to expand the site, parking, and the size of the drive-through lane. This was approved by the Planning Commission in May 2019. Permits have been issued, the site's been demolished, and has an anticipated completion date of spring 2021. The next project is the Russell Fisher Car Wash at 301 and 325 North Tustin Avenue. This project proposes remodeling a gas station and constructing a new car wash. Was approved by City Council in October of 2019 and is currently facing CEQA litigation. The next slide that will appear for you is the Archangel Michael Coptic Orthodox Church. This proposes a new 10,000 square foot community service building and additional church seating with mezzanine areas. The project was continued by the Planning Commission in September 2019, and its current status is that the applicant is working with a new entitlement team to bring the project back for the Planning Commission's consideration on a future agenda item. The next project that will appear for you is the First American Mixed-Use Development. This is a new mixed-use development consisting of up to 220 units and 12,000 square feet of commercial space. This project was approved by the Planning Commission in October 2019. It is entitled and in plan check. Also, one of the more exciting components of the project was that there was a peel back done back in March, wherein certain facade additions that were done in the 70s were peeled back and revealed the intact historic structure of the old Orange County Title building that was built in 1931 to be underneath. So now the applicant is working on a project submittal that includes preservation of the older portion of the building. The next project that will appear for you is the Addington at 2525 North Main Street. This was a 256 unit up to 4-story apartment development on a former office site that basically was repealed by ordinance and currently in litigation. The following slide for you will show the Vista Heritage Charter School Code Amendment. This is to allow an expansion of an existing school from 400 to 870 students. Was approved by City Council in January 2020 and is also in the building division plan check process. The next slide that will appear for you are the duo of the AMG projects, Villa Court and First Point. And these two projects are at 2222 and 2114 East First Street, respectively, would construct 970 affordable rental units for families and seniors, as well as 10,000 square feet of leasable commercial space. These were approved by the Commission in September 2017 and June 2018, and both projects are currently under construction, with the Villa Court Senior project a couple of months ahead of the First Point Family project. The next slide that will appear before you is the Elon project by Wormers Properties, adjacent to the Santa Ana Zoo. This would construct 603 market rate rental apartments and 20,000 square feet of commercial space. It was approved by this commission in July 2018 and is currently in the building division plan check process. The next slide that will be visible is the Tiny Tim Plaza Affordable Community under construction at the Tiny Tim Plaza Center on 5th and Hawley Streets. This is to construct 51 affordable family rental units and uniquely included comprehensive rehabilitation of existing commercial structures with new plazas and facade treatments around the development for a comprehensive integrated mixed-use development, approved in December 2017 and is currently under construction. Following that slide will be an image and slide for the 4th Street Studios. These are being constructed directly above the 4th Street Market here in downtown. Would construct 24 residential studios within the existing building on the 2nd floor. Was approved by Commission in January 2018 and is currently under construction. The following slide is Hampton Inn. This is to construct a 135-room, 6-story hotel with on-site restaurant at 2129 North Main Street. It was approved by City Council in March 2020 with a 1-year extension recently being processed, and is awaiting the applicant to pull construction permits and begin construction. The following slide, similar to Tiny Tim, is called Bridging the Aqua at 317 East 17th Street. This would construct 57 supportive affordable housing units. Was approved by the Planning Commission in May of 2017 and a month later by the City Council. And like the Tiny Tim project, is also currently under construction. Following that is the 3rd and Broadway mixed-use development at 201 East 3rd Street. This project would redevelop an existing city parking structure with a 171-unit multifamily project in 16 stories, as well as a 10-story, 75-room hotel. This project has not yet come before you, but will so soon, and it requires Planning Commission and City Council approval. It is currently in the staff level development project review cycle. Similar to that in status is another hotel that's under consideration, Tapestry Hotel by Hilton at the Brook Hollow Office Park area near Hotel Circle. This would construct a 139-room, 6-story hotel closer to the airport, containing 2,000 square feet of restaurant space. This would also require commission and council review, and like some other projects, is currently in the development project review phase. Also similarly in status is the 4th and Mortimer mixed-use development here in downtown. This would redevelop the Northgate Market site at 4th and Mortimer Streets, 2 city blocks with 169 residential units and about 11,000 square feet of leasable commercial space. Like its other projects, it's in the development project review phase and would require commission and council approval. Hopping back over to a recently completed project, the Charlie, which at the time of entitlements was called the Line, will appear shortly on your for visibility, was to construct 228 market rate rental residential units and about 4,000 square feet of leasable commercial space. This would be directly adjacent to the OC streetcar line, present terminus at Westminster and Harbor Boulevards. It was approved by the Planning Commission in January 2016 and was recently completed. One Broadway Plaza is the next project that will appear for you. This is a mixed-use development consisting of 200,000 square feet of office use and 415 apartment units. Was recently approved through an addendum and a zone change in April of 2020, and it is pending submittal into the building division plan check process. And with that wraps up our semi-annual development update, and I'd be happy to provide further details if the commission has any questions.
Commissioner Morrissey, do you have any questions?
No questions. Looks like a lot of exciting things happening in the city. Great to see.
Commissioner Nguyen?
I have no question. Thank you.
Commissioner Rivera?
No question.
Okay, Commissioner Fan?
No questions here. Thank you so much.
Vice Chair Contreras-Leo?
No, thank you.
Okay. I've just got a few quick ones, Allie. AMG Villa Court, is that the affordable housing that's over by First Street?
That's correct, Chairman. Villa Court is the one that's closest to the 55 and the First Street overcrossing.
And wasn't that at one point in time under a different group?
It has always been entitled by AMG, but Jamboree Housing partnered with them on several components.
So Jamboree is still partnered with that?
I'll have to double check what their current role is, but as of the last status, I knew they were involved in the project's entitlement and getting through approvals.
Okay. And Elon project, as I mentioned to Vince the other day, I went by there today and they started, it looks like they're scraping the land at this point in time and clearing the land. So that's a situation that's positive because that's been sitting idle for probably about a year at this point in time with regards to. So when do we expect to start breaking ground on that?
If the developer can pull permits later this summer and early fall, then they could begin, actual excavation for the underground parking in one of the buildings, and also start framing the core of the other building with the parking structure, probably this fall.
Okay. But I understand there's a few challenges that are on the table right now.
It is a very complex project, but there's a meeting scheduled to review some of their plan check concerns in the near future.
Okay. All right. Well, if there's no other questions of the commissioners at this point in time, I appreciate the update. That was a little more comprehensive than we did the last time, which was good. And I hope it was helpful for everybody on the commission at this point in time. I will share with Dale's original comment. There is a significant lag on the screens coming up with each page and what you're talking about. I mean, you get through 3/4 to almost 90% of your presentation, and then the new slide comes up, which is what you just presented verbally. And it would be nice to be able to taste this a little bit differently, so that we see what you're saying rather than the delay that we have today.
Noted, Chair.
Thanks a lot, Ali. Thanks, Vince.
And Chair, if I may, we do have a caller who would like to speak on this item.
That's fine.
Okay,
we'll
caller
open
with
comments.
caller with the last three numbers of 477. Please state your name and your comment. Caller is with the last three numbers of 477. You had indicated that you'd like to speak on this matter.
This is Dale Helvig. I think you got me from the last call. I'm okay.
Okay, thank you. Chair, there are no other callers.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. With that, we'll close the second part of the work study, and we'll go to comments by the staff at this point in time.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for all the input that you provided and the commission provided tonight. We'll certainly be bringing back that more information in the future. As we spoke at the last meeting, there was a desire to discuss public noticing requirements. Therefore, our staff is working on some background information, and we will bring that as a discussion item in the future. I know the chair mentioned earlier, and Commissioner Nguyen mentioned earlier about the passing of former Councilman Rob Richardson. I'd like to take the time just to respectfully, share my condolences to his family. So that's it. That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you on that. Are there any comments from the commissioners? I'll start with Commissioner Morrissey.
Yes. Just briefly, I'd like to thank staff for coming back with the further studying the concerns we had about noticing. And I'd also like to say I'm always very impressed with the breadth of knowledge and on the planning issues and the responses you're able to give us during the meeting. So it's very helpful. So thank you very much for all the efforts put forth in doing the presentation. And also, I'd like to, if I may, to close this meeting in honor of Mr. Richardson.
We're going to do that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Nguyen.
I would like to closing this meeting with an honor of Mr. Rob Richardson. I have first opportunity to met Mr. Rob Richardson back in 1990 when he was the Senate councilman. and later served as the trustee of Santa Ana Unified School District. I am very sad to learn the passing. Mr. Rob Richardson has been dedicated lifelong for Santa Ana and has great passion for community service and active advocate for interests of Santa Ana residents. Our city has lots of role model residents, and then IM has lots of role models as well, great friends. I am deeply saddened. I would like to extend my sincere condolences to his family.
Thank you, Commissioner Nguyen. Commissioner Rivera.
Just thanks to staff for answering the questions we had today. And also, I mean, I didn't know Rob very much, but I did get to meet him a little bit through the past couple months as while I started on the Planning Commission, and it's just sad news. And yes, condolences to his family.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Rivera. Commissioner Pan.
I just wanted to echo what others have said. It's very sad news. I didn't get the opportunity to meet him, but his reputation definitely preceded him. I have only ever heard incredible things about him, and, you know, it's a big loss for our city. He was someone so involved and so fantastic, and my condolences definitely goes out to his family. But you know, we remember him positively and the things that he's done to serve our city, so we're all very thankful for that. That's all.
Thank you, Commissioner Pan. Vice Chair Contreras-Leo.
Yes, before I talk about Rob, I just want to thank staff again for all that you do, and this last presentation was excellent. It was a lot more informative for me, so thank you very much for all the time you put into it. In regards to our dear friend Rob, you know, I met him when I was 21, and we won't say how old I am now, but it was a long time ago. And, you know, my condolences go out not only to his family, but friends from the community that, you know, we were all very close to him, and he was so engaging, such an amazing mentor. He affected change at the city level, at the school level, at the county level, and to an extent the state level. And just a man of respect with his word, kindness, and he's definitely going to be missed. So we'll have a lot of people to remember him by. Thanks, Mark, for letting us talk.
Thank you. No, thank you for that. And I'll just say that you know, we've been, a few of us have been really in touch with Rob on a regular basis. My wife has been talking to Rob off and on for the last 2 or 3 months, and he sounded great. He was doing great, and in fact, she received a call on Sunday around 1 o'clock from Rob. She wasn't able to get to the call, but Rob left a message and then passed away about 5 hours later. So you know, I echo everything that everybody else said. I mean, Rob was an institution in Santa Ana. He was city's council. He was school board. You know, he's a historian. He's helped people out from the history of the city. He's a train aficionado. I mean, his love for trains was just unbelievable. He's written books on trains. He sits and watches trains. It was one of his fascinating pastimes. We will miss him, and we'll miss his many stories. Anybody that had breakfast with Rob always knows that you go to Norm's at 7:30 in the morning with Rob Richardson, and that's his off-site office at this point in time. But I will it's across the board. Everybody. I'd just like to say I would like to adjourn this meeting in the honor of Rob Richardson, who passed away on Sunday, July 26th. With that, I just want to remind everybody that we have a special meeting that will be held on Monday, August 3rd at 5:30. It's to review the zoning ordinance amendment pertaining to the housing opportunity ordinance. Again, we're adjourned, and be safe. And thank you, Rob Richardson, for all you've done for Santa Ana.
Thank you, Mark.
Okay,
you.
thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
Good
Thank
night.
you.